friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Karen. Today we're going to paint a color wheel in acrylic paint. I've had a lot of questions about acrylic paint. This is acrylic paint on paper. You don't have to do acrylic paint on canvas, even though I do have examples of me painting on canvas. Well, I'm going to do a whole series on how to paint with acrylic paint. And today we're going to do a color wheel. And the reason why is because if you haven't practiced how to put colors together, then it's very difficult to paint a painting and be okay with it and be satisfied with it. Or sometimes you get frustrated and you just want to throw it away. Well, we're not going to throw any of our paintings away. We're going to learn on paper, this is just watercolor paper, how to mix acrylic paint to get the colors that we want and what we need. And then you'll have all this information and what paint you're using and what brushes we're using and how much water to use versus how much paint to use. We're going to go through all of that. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to show you how I screwed up. Right here, I screwed up, but I'll show you how I fixed it. The main colors are red, blue, and yellow, and all the other colors in the world are made up from the red, blue, and yellow. So this is what we're going to do today. You can speed through if you just want to learn how to mix up one color. Today, we are going to be talking about acrylic paint. We're going to be talking about different brands of acrylic paint, and we're going to be doing a color wheel. Now, one of the questions that people ask the most when I am teaching art classes is, what is the best kind of acrylic paint? This isn't necessarily the best kind of acrylic paint, but this is, Blick has some pretty good acrylic paint. There's a bunch of different brands. I have a whole bunch of different tubes of paint. We're going to talk about different colors of, you know, I mean, there's red, blue, and yellow is what we're going to be using. Sometimes it's difficult when you're looking at, I mean, a whole bunch of different types of paint, and they're all on the wall, and you don't know what to get. You don't know what, you know, how to mix it. You've never done any of that kind of stuff before. So what I do suggest is, if you're just starting out, get whatever the manufacturer suggests. Like Liquitex has put this package of different colors together for you, which are some of the basic colors that you need. They've already formulated that this yellow, this blue will create green. They've already formulated that this red and this blue will create purple. So they've already done it for you, instead of going to the shelves and there's a whole bunch of different colors, and maybe you're going to pick up this red. This is a pretty fire engine red, which is good. It's called red. So, you know, you could pick up a red and then you pick up a yellow, but if you look at yellows, there's a bajillion yellows. This one happens to be, this one right here happens to be called Cad Yellow Medium. Now, if you get Cad Yellow Light, and then you get red, and then you get some blue, when you're mixing those colors, they may not come out like you are expecting them to, because Cad Yellow Medium is more of the color of yellow that you need to mix these together to make orange. And you wouldn't know that if you are just starting out in the world of acrylic or watercolor or anything, because when you look at all the little tubes of paint, I don't care what anybody says, it's extremely difficult to choose the right yellow, the right blue, the right red to create whatever you want to create, unless you get, like I said, a box set, because they've already figured it out for you that that red and that yellow makes a good orange. So that's one way to start. I do suggest that when you're starting. Now, once you've started and you've already figured some of it out and you go, you know, I really don't like that orange, then I do suggest going and buying just a tube of orange, whatever color of orange that you're looking for. Or a great example, you know, let's say I'm going to use a different brand of paint. There's Master's Touch, and maybe I want a purple, and I get a red and a yellow and everything, and I don't get the purple that I want, then go buy a tube of purple. This doesn't even open. Buy a tube of purple, and if you find a purple that you like. Okay, so another thing to think about. Okay, so when I'm looking at these Liquitex, like I said, you could get the Basics brand. I mean, it's Liquitex, but the Basics is for students. Now, if you go, this is a heavy body. What we're going to be using is a heavy body paint. We're not going to be using craft paint like you see in a bottle, or heavy body paint to create colors and do mixing and to create a, we are going to create a color wheel. So that's what we're going to be using, not the bottles. And I'll tell you why as we go. So you have Liquitex Basics, which is basically student grade. And then you have the professional grade. And this is what this is right here. And it says heavy body on there. The old ones don't have that information on there. Only the new tubes. We're going to do a color wheel. And we're going to start out, we're going to do the circle with a paper plate. It's just a cheap paper plate that I got from just about anywhere. I'm going to sit that here. I'm going to get a pencil. We're going to add white to it to see the different colors that you can get when you add white to the color that you're mixing up. This is just a piece of watercolor paper. I know that we're using acrylic paint, but we're just going to use a piece of watercolor paper for this. I use paper plates for my palettes because acrylic paint is like plastic, and what happens is it will dry on a palette and then you have to just throw the palette away. It's very hard to clean a palette with acrylic paint. So I just use paper plates and then I just toss them. I found it's just a Glad plastic container. Obviously it's Christmas, a Christmas container. And I'm going to use this for the second circle. Just like this, we're going to do the main colors on the outside, and then we're going to add white to create all these other colors in between. I probably won't do that many, but anyway. So then I try to put this in the center as much as possible. Put this in the center as much as possible. And trace around it for the next circle. Then I do paint parties. And I have this plastic container. It's a plastic cup that I got, I don't know, probably Target. And so I'm going to put that in the center of that circle. Move it over a tad so it's in the center. And then I'm going to do another circle. And remember, this is for practice. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm using the bottom of it for the very center. And it's a little harder to see where the center is in this one. But anyway, if it's close, that's good enough. Then I'm going to get a ruler. And I know the pencil's probably pretty light, so I'm trying to push down dark so you can see it. So the next thing you want to do is, if you can see, we're going to put a cross on it, and then we're going to divide them up into more sections. Here is a black and white version, and when you buy the class, I'm going to have all these versions in there so you can see them. But basically we're just going to do from top to bottom and then side to side as even as possible. It doesn't, like I said, this is for practice. This is for learning how to paint or learning how to mix colors. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Oh my gosh, does not have to be perfect. So I'm going to try to put like a little dot in the center, as close to the center, so I can line everything up. Last time I didn't line it all up and it was all whoop-nagled. Like, nothing like being whoop-nagled, right? Okay. Okay, so I did the cross, and now we want to divide. We need 2 lines in here. So we're going to eyeball it. If you want to try to measure it, you can. I'm not into measuring. I'm an artist, and I'm just going to sort of eyeball. what these other lines where these other lines might be. So I'm going to try to, you know, sometimes you can do it this way and then set your ruler down so you can see approximately where the line needs to go. So it's pretty even. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to mix colors on it. All right, so we're doing the same thing over here. We're going to try to find... So you want to do it here, maybe a little bit larger, because then you got to do one here, right? Like I said, if you want to measure, you can measure. I just don't measure. And if it's off just a little bit, it's going to be okay. So, there. Close enough. Alright, so now we have something that's all divided up so we can start mixing paint. In my paint parties, I always use these colors. Now, this is magenta, which I always use, but I think while I'm doing this demonstration, I'm using, this is the Dick Blick. I'm going to use phthalo blue, red, and then I have this chrome yellow paint. This is what they suggested. So I think I'm going to go with these colors because I have plenty of them for mixing. A lot of times when I'm using acrylic paint, I mean, I have these like generic brushes. Acrylic paint is a plastic and you got to make sure you clean it really well. Otherwise, the acrylic will get into the barrel. This is the barrel of the brush. This is the barrel of the brush, and the acrylic paint will get into the barrel of the brush, and it will make the brush fray, and then it's very difficult to clean, and it looks like a mess. Let me show you one that looks like a mess. This is what happens when you have a brush that you've used over and over and over, and paint has gotten down into the barrel, and it's all frayed now. Even when I get it wet, it's real thick right here with paint, and it's very difficult to use. So just a little tip about acrylic paint. And I already got it all over me. It's always fun to get it all over you, right? Okay, so I got red paint, I've got yellow paint, and blue. I'm gonna do a lot of mixing, which you will right now. I have another palette for mixing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start out with red. I don't know why. We don't have to start out with red. We can start out with blue or any other color. But I just want to show you that everything in the world is, you can mix any color with yellow, blue, and red. And so this is what we're going to do, is we are going to mix yellow with red to get the yellow, orange, orange, and red, orange. We're going to do the same thing on this side with greens, and down here we're going to do the red and the blue to create all these other purples. So I'm just going to start out with red just because I like red. I don't know if there's any other reason to start out with red other than I like red. So I'm going to start out with red, and I'm just going to start out right here. This is going to be red. Okay, so something that we need to remember, I mean, we started out with red, but something we need to remember is that if we're going to mix red with yellow, you always take a little bit of red, put it here on your palette, and then rinse your brush extremely well, unless you have another brush that doesn't have paint on it, and you just want to go get the paint from the other. You can get another brush and start with a clean brush if you want. But you got to start with a clean brush, because if you take this red and you dip it into that or into the yellow, it's going to already start mixing with the yellow, and it's going to make a mess because you're not going to have pure yellow anymore. So you want to pick up pure yellow. The other thing you need to remember always, no matter what color it is, the lighter color, you need more lighter color, like more yellow, than you do red. So I guess what we could do is go on over and figure out where yellow goes. So if this is red, this is blue, and this is yellow, we can go ahead and put that on there. And how do I know that? I know that by saying this is the red, and you count over 1, 2, 3, and it's the fourth one. 1, 2, 3, and it's the fourth one. So I'm going to go on, take my yellow, and put it on here. So what we could do, and why don't we just go ahead and put the blue on there. But you got to make sure that you rinse your brush really, really well, so then the blue over here is as pure blue as you can possibly get it. So I'm rinsing my brush, making sure there's no yellow on it, no red on it. You can see there's nothing on it, it's all clean. Now I'm going to go in with the blue. And so where does the blue go? Did I already mess up? Let's see, we have red, orange. So we got to do, there's 3, 1, 2, 3, and then this is blue. The fourth one is blue, so you have 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. And we're going to mix those up in a minute. Oop. I got a little crazy right there. Cut out of the lines, but that's okay. So the next thing we're going to do is go make sure we rinse our brushes really, really, really well. And make sure there's no blue in the brush. Okay. So the way I do it when I'm mixing a color wheel is I always start with the lightest color. And it's really warm today, so I'm going to be spritzing a little bit on my, with a little bit of water, because it's super warm today. Okay, I'm going to be starting out with the lightest color, and the reason why is because you need the lightest color, and then when you're trying to pick out a color that is, you know, with a little, you have yellow, and then we're going to get red, but we're only get a tiny bit of red to try to find this color. If I go in here and I dip a huge amount of yellow, huge amount of red, and mix it with that, it's going to be all red. We're going to start with yellow though. We're going to start with yellow. We're going to dip in and start yellow. Then we're going to come over here to the red and get a tiny corner of yellow. A tiny corner of red to start mixing to come up. See, it doesn't take much. It's already getting really dark. So this is too close to the regular yellow, so we're going to go in and get a tiny bit more red and add to this. To come up with an orange. Remember, it's a yellow orange. It almost looks like it doesn't have enough red in it yet. So I'm going to go pick up a tiny bit more, mix it up so it's a little darker, a little more orange, and maybe this is the better color. Yeah, that's better. So the other thing we're going to do while this is already mixed up, we're going to get our white, and we're going to start adding a little bit of white. I'll squirt some white out on here. So now we're going to go and we're going to put yellow, we have this yellow, and we're going to add some white, and so you can see what it looks like when you add white to this color that we mixed up, this orange color that we mixed up. Needs a little more white in it. Didn't quite get as white as we wanted. So we haven't done it with yellow yet, the pure yellow. This is already mixed up, so I want to make sure we do this while we have a chance to do it before it all dries. That's the thing about acrylic paint that's good and bad. The good part is it dries fast if you want it to dry fast, and the bad part about it is it'll dry fast if you don't want it to dry fast. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're adding more white. So I'm going in and getting more white and adding it to the exact thing that I was working on. I'm not going to add it over here, it ends up being the same color. I want to add it to all of this, the light color that we've already mixed up, because we're trying to get a lighter color, right? So you can see what it looks like when you add white to that color. Okay, and then we're going to do it again. And that almost has, sometimes if there's too much paint on here and I'm mixing it up and I'm not getting the color that I want, you can wipe some of it off. Then I can go back in with a white and add it. So then we can come up with that color that I'm looking for, which is even whiter, even lighter, not really white, but lighter than what I had before. So you can see the different variations of what happens when you add white, when you have yellow and you add red. Okay, so we have a ton of this on here. I'm going to wipe it off and we're going to clean our brush really, really well. Always have lots of paper towels to clean, wipe when I'm working on projects. Okay, so the next step is to go even more closer to red, which means even more orange than what we have here. Remember, we mixed it here. So what we're going to need is we're going to need more yellow, because all this is drying, and we got to make it have enough where we can create all the different shades of the color of orange. I'm going to go in here with the red. Remember, we got to get back to this. I'm going to add red to it. It's got to be darker than the other one, more of a pure orange, but not as dark as red, because it's orange. So you mix, 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 mix. You don't want the white in it. You just want yellow and red. I'm kind of patting it down and swirling it around to come up with a darker orange, and it still isn't really dark enough, so I'm going in with more red. Ooh, I hope I didn't get it too dark that time. Whoops! Oh, it looks good. Alright, so there is our orange. Now your orange may be a tad different than mine, but remember, this is an exercise to learn how to do all of this, right? So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add white, because we're going to start doing the lighter color. We're going to create these lighter colors. Go in with that. We got to mix up enough. Ooh. I hope I didn't put too much white in it already. See, that's another thing. It's just practice, practice, practice. Alright, so here's some white. Uh-oh, I sloshed. Sometimes that happens. Okay, so then remember what you can do, since you have a lot of paint on here, you got to go back in the white. I'm going to wipe some of that off, so then when I go into the white, I'm picking up more pure white, because I want more pure white to mix with this color to make a lighter orange. That's the whole goal. And remember, we have to mix up enough of it, because then we're gonna do 2 more, or at least 1 more block. So here we go. It's a lighter one. There we go. So if I can get some of that off, I might use it later. And kind of scrape it on the edge. Okay, but I need to go back in the white, so I'm going to wipe a little bit of it off. Go back into white. Mix up something that's lighter than what I had before by adding white. Whew. Need to put a little more white in it. There you go. Alright, so now we're going to clean our brush really, really good. Make sure there's no white or yellow or anything on there. Okay, so now we're going to go with an even darker color. So I'm going to put it right here. We start out with yellow. We got to have enough of it. I mean, I guess I could have done it the other way around. That's pretty funny. Okay, so then we start with yellow. Then you're going to go in and we're going to pick up quite a bit of red. Because remember, whoa, I might have picked up too much. It's got to be a red-orange, but it can't be too dark. It can't be too red. It's got to be red-orange, and it has to be more orange. It has to be more red than that one. But it could be that I picked up a lot of red. I don't know if you see how I picked up a lot of red, and I don't know. Do you think that's a good color? I'm not really sure. It may be too much red, but I'm going to go in here and paint it out and see if it does come up orange. That's another thing. You're painting on a white piece of paper or a white canvas, and whatever it looks like in this big old glob may not look like the same when you put it on a piece of paper. In fact, that looks almost the same as that. So maybe we need to add more red. Here I thought, when I'm looking at it, so that's another thing about looking at it on your palette, it looks totally different here than when you actually put it on. I mean, it looks really red here. But what happened when we put it here on the white piece of paper, it wasn't. Now, another thing is, I'm also adding another layer. So you have this white paper underneath. You add another layer to it, will also make it darker. Same with a canvas. You add more paint, more layers of paint, it's going to look darker. So there are our 3 colors. So now I'm going to do the white part. I'm going to put this right here, and then I'm going to go into I'm going to put it here so I can go into the white. I got to pick up a whole bunch of white because this is really dark. Whew. And I mixed up a bunch of paint. And this looks like this looks like almost like here, not here. I have a lot of white on there, so I need to get something in between that. So I need more of this orange paint. to make it darker. Wow, I mixed up a lot of paint, didn't I? Didn't mean to. There we go, that's an in-between one. So in order to get something lighter there, I'm going to have to clean my brush and go add white to this lighter color. But, ooh, that's a really pretty color. Alright, I even put a little water on it, cleaned it a little more. I'm going to go in with the white and add white here to create an even lighter orange to go on here. There. Ta-da! So I am cleaning my brush really good. So we have these. I'm going to go ahead, since I'm working on, I have yellow and red to do. I'll do those next. So I'm going to start with the red. I'm going to pick up white and put it, put a blob here and put some here. Okay, I'm going to pick up the red and start mixing. I need something a little darker. So white and red make pink. So we need a lighter pink. I'm taking the pink from here and putting it over here where there was a blob of white, mixing it up so it's lighter. Lighter. I keep picking up that red. I don't want to do that. I'm adding white. Okay, and then the next step is to make one even whiter. So I'm going to clean my brush because I'm making a lot of paint. I'll clean my brush off a little, and then what I'm doing is I'm taking this that's already pink and taking a little bit of it and adding white so it's even lighter. There you go. So there's another one done. So when I did this demonstration for the watercolor, because it was watercolor and watercolor can be reactivated with water, whereas acrylic paint cannot, it will dry. This is why I'm creating the color wheel the way I am, because I know the paint's going to dry. If I could reactivate it the way I reactivated the watercolor, then we would have done all the outside colors and then gone inside. But I didn't do it this time because it's acrylic paint. Acrylic paint will dry. So the next step is I'm going to go ahead and do the yellow right here. It is really warm today. I am going to spritz just to kind of keep everything nice and moist. Don't put a lot of water or you're swimming in water. And that's not what you want to do either. Your heavy body paint becomes thin, way too thin. Okay, so I'm going to do these right here while I'm working on the color scheme. So I'm pulling out the yellow and put it here. I'm going to pull out some yellow and put it here. Okay, and we're going to go in, grab some white, and start mixing. Spin this around so I can get to it. So we're trying to get a lighter yellow by adding white. I don't think I have enough white. Ooh, it's a lot of paint. When you add white, it's more like a lemon yellow. It's not quite as rich as the pure yellow, as you can see. Okay, and I'm going to wipe some of this off. Just wipe some of it off. because I have to go in with white, get some more white. I already have a lot of yellow there. I need more white. I almost think it needs more white. And I squirted some. I dribbled. I didn't mean to dribble, but oh well. So that almost doesn't have enough white. I'm going to wipe off my brush again and go back in with the white and make it lighter. More of a pastel color. So one more time, I'm going to go and wipe off my brush. My towel's getting really... Wipe off my brush because I'm going back in with white again. I only want a little bit of color and a lot of white to make it even lighter in the center there. Clean your brush. So the next thing we're going to do is, why don't we spin this around? Remember, I'm going to spritz this a little because I don't want it to be completely dry. I'm going to try to use the rest of the paint. We'll paint, I don't know, let's paint something. Wouldn't that be fun with the rest of that paint? So I'm going to clean my brush really, really well. As you can see, there's lots of yellow in it. I don't want yellow in it. I want everything to be as pure as possible when I'm creating my color wheel. So the next step is we are going to use red, and we're going to go this way. We're going to use red and blue to create these other colors. Let's see, it would be, what are the colors? That would be red violet, violet, and blue violet are the next ones that we're going to create here. So remember, you always start, it's really good to start with the lighter color, which would be the red. So I'm going to start with red here. And then remember, we're just going to go in and get a tiny bit of the blue. I might have gotten too much, okay? But we're just trying to get just a small amount of the blue. So let's see what happens when I mix this up. I don't know. Let me just paint it on here and see if it's the red violet. Yeah. Once we put it on this white piece of paper, see what happens. It almost looks like maroon. And so the reason why is because different, you know, sometimes when you're mixing colors, and you may not really like that. That may not be the perfect color. That's why you buy that tube of paint instead of trying to mix it every time. And that's just my way of thinking about all that. Okay, since this is already mixed up, we're going to go into the white, and we're going to start adding white, and we're going to go down and create the lighter colors. So I'm going into the white, and I'm going to create a lighter color with it. And like I said, acrylic paint is going to dry, so we got to mix and work pretty quickly, which sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. I don't know if I got enough white in that. I guess I did with the white of the page. Alright, we're going to go dip into the white again to create an even lighter color. I don't know, maybe a little lighter than that even. Yeah, so see, this color is such a dark color. It takes so much white to make it lighter. Alright, and then since there's a lot of paint on my brush and we need to get even lighter, I'm going to wipe some of it off. Go in, grab white, And I'm going to just mix on the edge here, so we're not mixing up so much paint. So then, because remember the lighter color, which is the white, you need so much more of it, and you need just a tiny bit of the other color to create this lighter color. All right, cleaning my brush. Now we're going to go back in and get red. I'm going to put it right here. We're going to have more red here. Okay. So we're trying to find a darker, more violet color. It's the violet. So I'm going to go in and get a little bit of blue on the corner and mix it to see what we can come up with. And I might have gotten too much, because remember what happens is with the lighter color, if you dip into the darker color will get too dark too fast, and then you'll need more of the lighter color. I don't think that's what happened right there. It looks like this one before we put the white in it. Almost looks exactly like it. Okay, so we're going to go in and get a little more blue. A little more blue to get the violet color. So another thing, remember, what it looks like on the palette may not be the right color. It may not look right until you put it on the white page or the white canvas. So we're going to put it on the canvas and see if it's the color we need. Or on the, I'm using paper. So on the paper, well, to me it looks a lot like Next Door Neighbor. So I think I'm going to go in with the blue and add more blue to it. So it's really dark, and it doesn't look much like that. But that's the blue and the red that we're using to mix these colors. And I'm going to keep going. So another option we could have done is use magenta instead of the fire red. So that's another option, and maybe all these colors would have come out differently if I had used a different red. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, and now that this is all mixed, I'm going to put a little bit of spritz water on everything so it stays nice and damp. And then I'm going to go in and add white. I'm going to try to get some of this off of here so it's not quite so has so much on it. Alright, we're going to add white. Remember, it's a really dark color, so we have to be careful when we're adding the white, because it won't take much of the color to add to the white to get what we want. And I don't know if I even had enough blue in it, now that I'm looking at it with white in it. Whew, that probably goes here. So I'm adding a little bit of blue to see if I could get a richer purple color, because it just doesn't seem to look right. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong to make it look. Ooh, mixing up a bunch of paint for this one, because it just doesn't seem to look like what I want it to look like. Okay, so then I'm going to wipe some of this off. That almost needs to be over there now. I'm going to wipe some of this off, and I'm going to go in with white one more time. And remember, you just need a tiny bit of color to mix with white, or it will get too dark. Tiny bit of color, a lot of white. And there's our lighter color. Okay, I'm rinsing my brush, and then we're going to try to take the red and the blue and get more of a blue color. I don't know. We may experiment after this, and I may get that other color out and see what happens when we mix red and blue with and do the magenta and the blue. I might try that after this, and we'll put it out here. Okay, so the next step is to go in with the blue and mix it with this red. And I'm making a mess. I didn't mean to make a mess. Making a mess here. May need a little more red in this. Alright, and then remember we're adding white. So we need just a little bit of color and a lot of white. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of this color. Ooh, this looks like this color right here. That's a pretty color. I'm going to add more to my white to get a darker. Wow. I'm having a hard time getting a darker color here. Oh, I sloshed again. There we go. I'm rinsing my brush because there's a lot of dark on it and there's blue on it. I'm trying to clean it up a little. Get another piece of paper towel. Now I'm going to leave those little dots because if I go in and try to take those off, they'll smear all over. That's another thing about acrylic paint. It's going to be very difficult to get it off without smearing it. And I guess I could try, but it's just a color palette, right? So now I'm going to take my little bit of color and add it to white to get that super white or light color that's going to be on the end there. A little bit of color and a lot of white. Okay, now we're going to go back to blue. We've got to add white to blue. And then we'll do the greens on the other palette. We're going to have another palette. It's like this is stuffed. We have stuffed it. Okay, alright, so the next step is we're going to do the greens. And as you can see that if you take yellow and blue, you can create all these different greens. And there's not any more room, on my paper plate. So I am going to mix them on here. So what I'm going to do is I have this palette knife and I'm just going to scrape off, since we're doing yellow and blue, I'm going to scrape off the yellow from this palette so we can use it. And try not to get any of that white because I want it to be pure, right? I'm running out of room. So that's what I did, was I scraped off the yellow from this other palette and put it on here and clean this off because we don't want to mix yet. Clean it off really good, maybe get some water on it so it's clean. And then I'm going to go in and get my blue so we're not wasting paint. I'm going to get, I don't want to get any of the red. I don't know if you can see, I don't want to grab any of the red. I want to just grab this blue. So I'm going to go in here. I don't want to get any of the white over there either. May take a couple of times. Scoop up some of this blue. Now we still may need to have a little bit more. We may have to add some more yellow for all the mixing, but let's see how this works out. Okay. Make sure you clean it off. Everything really good because it's acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is like plastic. It dries and then you can't get it off, and I don't know if you notice, but that's the Bob Ross one I'm using. Yes, I've taken all of his classes. Love Bob Ross. So here and go this way because this is the lighter color. Remember, the theory stays the same. I always start with a lighter color and add a little bit of the darker color instead of the other way around. So we're going to scoop up some yellow. Okay, and so I'm going to go in here. Now, yellow and blue, this blue is super dark. It's so much more dark than the red. So you don't need much. You just need a tiny, tiny bit to mix to get that first green. Now, on here, it looks like the perfect green. But when we put it here, we may have to add some more blue. Let's see what happens. See, it looks really light. Now, it could be that we can put 2 or 3 coats of paint on here, but we're going to need to mix some more of this up because remember, we're going to do white. All right, so yeah, we're going to have to mix up more. I'm going to go back in tiny bit, and we got to mix up more than what we have here. Because remember, we're also going to add white. So see, when I added another coat to this thin paint, this paint is, the white of the paper is showing through. So when I add another coat, this actually looks like the right color, the right green. Yellow green, green yellow. Okay, now we're going to need white. I guess I could go in and try to scoop up some of this other white, maybe in the center. I want to be really careful because I don't want to pick up any colors. You mainly just want the white. I may have to like squirt some more white out. So white can get messed up really fast because it's the lightest of all colors. And some people call it that. Some people say it's not even a color, which, you know, you can. I mean, if you get into all the crazy theory stuff, you know. So now we're going to go in and add white to create a lighter color. And then we're doing a lighter color. And then I'm going to wipe it off and go in with white one more time. And there we have it. I'll go in and rinse my brush and go to the next color. So we're going to take a little bit of blue. I'm going to grab as much as I can of that green. I'm going to have to get yellow to create a darker green. And then here we go with the white. And then white again. Same process we did before. And then white one more time to get an even lighter color. And there you go. Rinse your brush, and one more time. We need to create. We didn't need any more yellow. Look at that. I'm going to spritz all the water. I'm going to spritz everything, make sure it stays damp. Okay, and we're going in and getting more blue. And it's going to be even a darker blue than we had before. So this is sort of like that one. Whoops, I sloshed. And go in with the, we need to add a little more blue. Some more of a blue-green. I think it probably needs even a little more blue, couldn't hurt. if your paint, like I said, it's really warm today, if your paint gets to where it doesn't mix very well, it may be getting really dry at this point. So you go in, you dip just the corner in the water, and then that will help mix up the paint a little easier. I almost wish that was had a little more blue in it. So I'm going to add more blue to it. And everything's getting dry, so I'm adding a little more water so it mixes really well. And I'll go back over it again. So it has a little more blue in it. Ooh, that's a pretty color. Okay, then I'm going to wipe off my brush because we're going to go into the white. And remember, we just need a little bit of color and a lot of white to create these other colors. That's almost the same hue as this one right here. Look at there. Too much white. So I'm going to add more color to it so I can have it a little darker. Get something in between. Remember, we're trying to do something in between. Okay, and I'm going to clean my brush a little because it has a lot of paint on it, and I need to make one that's even lighter. So I'm going to dip into the white and add it to the lighter bunch of paint that I have on here on my palette to create even a lighter color. Bingo, we did it. Oh, and I sloshed. I've been so good, and I hadn't sloshed the whole time, and I sloshed. But if you get a paper towel, sop it up quickly. Bingo, it's good. Alright, the thing that I wanted to do is I'm going to spritz everything because I don't want it to dry. Because I think I'm going to paint something with all my extra paint that I have here. I thought it'd be fun to paint something. But I think what I want to do is I'm going to go in with this magenta paint, and I'm going to try to mix up these purples and see if the purples come out differently. Okay, I'm back again. Remember we talked about I used a red and a blue and got these purples, and I wasn't really satisfied with it. So what I'm going to do is change and use a different I'm going to use a different red and see if it makes a difference with the paintings. It's magenta, and I guess I'll just start here. It doesn't really matter where you start. And I'm going to paint the red or the magenta color of the Dick Blick. On here, and then remember we're going to be adding white to create pink. Trying to see, that looks really dark. Oh, add a little white to it. That's a pretty color. I'm going to wipe some of it off because then we're going to go in with the white and add white to it to make a little darker color. I mean a little lighter color. We're going light, we're going lighter. There's lighter. I'm going to rinse or wipe, and then we're going even lighter. Now this is the magenta from Dick Blick. Instead of the fire, what was the other one? Fire red. So instead of fire red, we're doing magenta this time. I think it may make a difference, I don't know. Then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and blue's going to be here. So I'm just going to start I'm going to start going, and I'm just going to go in this direction and add blue until I get to blue. Blue's going to be here. So we're going to take the red, that's the lighter of the two colors, and we're going to add red, a little bit of blue. That's probably too much. I'm adding the blue and the red to see if we get better results and get those lavender colors, those purples. And this looks a lot better than the other painting. So let's just see. All right, and then we're going to add white. And more white. Rinse my brush really good. Okay, so now we're going to get red again. I'm going to put it here. And, okay, so we have, this needs to be purple or violet, and then red, violet, and then blue. So we're going to get a little bit more of the blue. See if we can come up with the violet color. And I think that this is going to look a lot better than the fire engine red, but there was no way for me to know because they didn't come in a set. Wow, that made all the difference in the world. Look at that. Wow. So now we know what to mix with. We need to make sure you use the Dick Blick Magenta and the Dick Blick, what is this? Phthalo Blue and the Dick Blick Chrome Yellow paint. Boy, that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add white. Here we go again to make it lighter. There's one that's lighter. And then we need more white. Have enough white here. And then I'm going to wipe some of the paint off so I can go back and get white again. So I make it even lighter for the center here. Okay. So I'm going to rinse all the white out of my brush, and we're going to create the next one, which is, what is that? The blue violet color. Blue violet. So we need red and we need more blue. A little more red in it. So just to let you, I wanted to show you again that if you use the wrong paint, the wrong blue or red, your colors are not going to come out the same as they would be if you use the right red and the right blue, and it comes out to be more like this, the color that it's supposed to be. I just wanted everyone to see the difference between the magenta paint from Dick Blick and the fire red paint. So when mixing, the magenta paint works better to get the truer colors.